So, hello and hi everyone. Nancy Anger here, and I'm excited to be talking to Jen Jones today about Embrace Your Archetypes. Jen and I met about a year and a half ago, and we had an instant connection. And one of the hats she wears is a realtor, and I was looking for a property, but we found out we had a really great personal connection, and we would meet for coffee, and she started asking me about the archetypes. So I wasn't surprised when she joined me in my class, Embrace Your Archetypes, earlier this year. And thanks for coming on. I'm glad you agreed to come on, just share a little bit about your experience. And so I'll introduce Jen, and then you can take it away and share some more. So Jen is a master connector. So connector or networker and master are two of her archetypes that stood out right away to me. And she's as I said, a realtor, and also the founder of Connect and Elevate, which helps introvert entrepreneurs and ambivert entrepreneurs to learn to create deep, authentic, and powerful connections. So if you can even embellish more on that. Hopefully I expressed that right. But.
It was perfect. Yes. Yeah. So, well, it was it's one of those things where, I'm broker owner of Jones & Jones Realty, my own brokerage, and Connect and Elevate was birthed out of building relationships in my real estate business over the last 16 years. So, they sort of go hand in hand, and I love talking about both of them. And archetypes have definitely helped grow me and see more of myself, and how do I use it in my life and business, and just be aware of some of the amazing things that are out there as archetypes. We have 12 of them. I know 9 so far, right? And it's just been really helpful in just identifying your strengths, and really, I want to say, like, putting a spotlight on certain, skills that you have. Mm-hmm. But also, Nancy pointed out that I have the beggar archetype. And when she ever said that to me, I'm like, no, I don't. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but definitely not. I don't know what you're talking about. But in my real estate business, and also in Connect and Elevate, I do a lot of outreach, and I'm able to ask people to do things, whether it's a sponsorship or a good cause. Like, we have a scholarship program in our area. This is our second year. I can go out to sponsors and ask them for sponsorships very easily. And I can reach out to people and say, hey, you want to come on my online series? So when you were able to explain to me, I guess the light side of the beggar, it really was eye-opening that I was able to embrace the beggar archetype, and I love it. And I love telling the story, because it really shows that sometimes we might be closed off to seeing ourselves. So.
Yes, I do. I think sometimes, like, you probably the networker archetype, I'm guessing, probably is one that resonated with you pretty quickly. But sometimes people will, pick their archetypes because it's things they think they want to have or should have, and they really don't. And so I guess that's one other powerful thing, is if you realize, I don't really have that archetype, and you've been trying to do or be this thing, that doesn't serve, but every single one is here. So I understand it's perfect how it combined your networking, and your beggar was really helping you, because and even, like, I remember it just showed itself so clearly to me. And once you saw it, it was, so I love that. And so I think you mentioned one of the later archetypes that you uncovered was the goddess. And I remember we played with a few different ones. And then when I said goddess, how did that feel? Like, when I said that archetype?
It was like, oh, yeah. Because I think you initially had said, oh, well, maybe the queen. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, maybe. But then I think it was in the same session, that same class, you had this, walking into your heart, and this process. And I just remember I had a flowy dress on. I threw myself down in a lotus flower and it caught me. And you were like, ooh, goddess. And when you said that, I was like, ooh, yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. It's not the queen, but it's the goddess. So embracing things that I didn't even know, I wasn't even aware of. So that one was also
Yeah.
fun. And I love that story too. And I loved that exercise. And
Mhm.
it really opened up some things for me. So I feel like lots of good stuff happening during those classes.
Yes, well, thank you. And I think you bring up a good point. It's like, so there's some teaching, as part of the class, but then there is like the meditations and the activations. And so I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's something that is, might be very different than what another course might offer. So there's that combination of the teaching, but then there's like that actual like experience. And how did you, like in those meditations you could use again and again? Did you find that helpful? Did you go back to any of them again? Or
So there was one that I did go back to. It was the one where we were walking alongside like a river, and I was on
Mhm.
a bench, and actually I was on a bench and I was, sitting there, and I like how you just activation, I guess I called it an exercise, but I like the
Yeah.
word activation because it definitely activates something in you as you go through the process. So that one was the one that I did over again.
Yes, thank you. Awesome. So I guess just one last thing, if there was any, well, I think you shared a lot of ahas. So is there anything else that you might, that you want to share, anything that you might say to someone that's thinking about whether or not they want to join the program?
So yeah, I think a couple things actually. I guess I have a lot to say.
Okay.
Is that I went into the program for myself to learn more about myself, but it was really nice to be in communion with other people to hear about their archetypes so that I could be more aware, because maybe some of those I don't have, and I'm not as, because you're so hyper focused on yours, that it's
Right.
nice to hear about other people. So then when you're working with, if you're a business owner, if you're working with clients, you can sort of, pick up, like you do, pick up some of those things where you're like, oh, that's that archetype. Okay, how do I handle that? So I do think that there's definitely some positive things, not just about yourself, but also about other people. And then there's, the times when you share the same archetype with somebody else. And I think that's fun, besides the the other four, the four that everyone has. It's nice to
Yes.
be able to say, oh my gosh, she has that too, and just kind of, I don't want to say swap stories, but you hear other people's experiences. And I think
Mhm.
it's really important, not just about yourself, but the other people that are
Yeah,
doing it too.
I love that perspective. And I think you're right. I mean, I have the Queen. The Queen was one of the first ones I found out about. And that was one that I was like, what is that? The Queen? I don't even understand that. And now I get it, but it took a little bit to sink in because I didn't see it for myself, but I realized, oh, my oldest daughter has the Queen. And then
Mhm.
years later, I'm like, oh my gosh, my mother has the Queen. That explains a lot. So it's like sometimes we can butt heads with people that have the same archetype, like when you're so alike as someone. But then when you realize that it's the same, you have like this whole different relationship with it, which is so cool. So if people would like to, as I mentioned, your group Connect and Elevate, I love that. I thank you for inviting me to speak a few times in that. But your group, you might just say a little bit like what that is, and then how people can, and how you want people to connect with you if they're interested in connecting.
Yeah, perfect. So I have a free Facebook group called Connect and Elevate, and that is for anyone who wants to come in. It is, a little targeted more towards introverts, but it's for everyone to connect and network. And really, we do networking tips, we do, celebrate wins, we share things in there, and really it's just there for people to connect together. And it's fun. And we're going to be doing a speed networking coming up, so that if you're around and you come into the group, we'd love to have you come and do some speed networking with us, which will be fun. And so you can reach me there on Facebook, or if you want to do email, it's jenjones@connectandelevate.com.
Thank you. And I will be sharing those links below. And So just for people, I'm an introvert, big time. I might not seem it, but I'm definitely an introvert. And I do have maybe an ambivert. I have some extrovert, but I'm way more introvert. And so networking for me always felt kind of uncomfortable and still does if I'm totally truthful, but you make it so much easier to like really connect and for people to see their gifts as an introvert in the group. So thank you. If you're interested in learning more about Embrace Your Archetypes, you will learn to understand and work with your archetypes to consciously make more empowered choices, because your archetypes are always there, but most people are not conscious of them. And we work on the practical, but also the energetic level. And so the course starts on September 8th, and right now you can still join early bird pricing, 60% off with an extra $200 off until August 31st. And so I will post the links for that below. And thanks so much. Thanks, Jen, for joining me. And
thank you. Definitely sign up. It'll be an amazing experience. So Nancy, thank you so much. You're a great guide through the archetypes. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Yes, guide, one of my archetypes. So thanks, Jen.
Oh, that's funny.